turn things around.
It's so bad, Mike.
Where to even begin, man? I think far and away the worst thing that happened today was the passing of one Fife dog.
Wait, what?
You didn't hear about that?
You didn't hear about
No,
that?
I
Oh
haven't
man,
been
sorry
paying
to
attention.
make your day shittier.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen
Who's
any
peeing in the
confirmed
shower?
reports, but I think it was just kind of health issues he's had for a long
Somebody
time.
at work said type diabetes.
Yeah, he's been having issues for a long time, I think.
He's only 45.
Yeah, it's a real drag.
Can't be that old.
No, 45. Crazy.
Because they were super young when those early Tribe Called Quest albums came out.
I know, that's what I was realizing. Like, I watched the video for Scenario like 3 times today, and I realized he's like 20 years old in that video.
Yeah. Man, that sucks.
It sucks a lot. So, like,
There's
I
an,
said, shitty day.
there's an amazing video of this like random traffic reporter though, like working in a bunch of tributes to him over the course of like several morning traffic reports.
Recently?
This morning, today.
Oh, okay. Like,
Tribute. That's good. He was only 45.
is his traffic record longer than DC-20 aircraft?
He does say something about that's one of the references. He mentions sending a telegram at one point. Says somebody's got more hits than the Yankees and the Braves.
Maybe you'll get a taco.
There's a lot. I'll find the link and just send it to you.
Do you check any rhymes?
And he's like
yeah,
the
that's-
squarest white dude like ever. It's wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of square white dudes really like to try to call Quest.
Yeah.
I guess
but-
that is their curse.
A lot of really cool people like Tribe Called Quest too, because that, like that's a formative hip hop album. Like literally one of the most important and best hip hop albums of all time is Midnight Marauders. So
Good.
yeah,
A lot of people seem to think Low End Theory is better, or maybe just more important, but I think I prefer Midnight Marauders.
Midnight Marauders is better. I mean, it's like the culmination of what they started with the Low End Theory, which is also a very good
It
album.
is very good. Just a little more uneven. A little more gimmicky.
Yeah, there's also that one song on that album that is kind of like poo-pooing the idea of date rape, which isn't so great.
Yeah, not super enlightened.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, anyway, yeah, he is that group is as important to hip hop as Motorhead is to metal, and maybe not quite as important as David Bowie is to pop music, but they are up there.
Yeah, well,
Especially like all the underground hip hop acts of the last 20 or 25 years are all a huge debt to those guys. So
pour one the fuck out, man.
yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel like he hasn't really done much since.
No, he hasn't. I think his health issues probably kind of slowed him down a lot.
Yeah, maybe.
'Cause it's been
Not
a
as
while
active
that he's
as
been in kind of
Q-Tip.
bad shape.
Yeah. Although like half of Q-Tip's albums didn't come out because he was signed to a major label that thought his music was too weird to. Which is insane if you go back and like a lot of those albums have leaked or have been released in the time since, and it just seems completely insane that they wouldn't just put those out. But anyway,
Hard to know, man. I don't understand these things.
too weird to.
Yeah.
Which is insane if you go back.
Mike,
and-
I saw something on Twitter about you getting your identity stolen too.
Yep.
So that's
Good times abound.
who
Hey
the
guys,
fuck would want to
I'm
be
Mike
you?
Ailes.
Yeah. Oh, pretty ballsy too. Like whoever it was had enough information on me, presumably from listening to this podcast and stream, to convince the people at the bank that they were me long enough to get them to change my address, add someone else's name to my like credit card file, and mail them a new credit card.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty shitty. The good news is that nothing actually got bought on that before they shut down the credit card. The bad news is it spent like 2 hours today calling, banks and credit card places and credit. What do you call the
Right.
people who check your credit scores?
Credit bureaus.
Credit bureaus. Yeah. Yeah. No, it sucked a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the second worst thing that's happened today. Well, actually, no, it's probably the third worst thing that's happened today. But
What's the first or second after
I've just been seeing a lot on Twitter about this bill that's trying to be passed in North Carolina about how it's going to be illegal to hunt down transgender women in bathrooms.
It's going to be legal to hunt them down. It's going to be illegal for them to use them.
Yeah.
And several other states are proposing similar. What I believe it's Kansas proposed a law that would put a bounty on their heads, essentially, because anybody who, if you had the terrible, tragic misfortune to see a trans person in the bathroom, you could sue them for, I believe, up to $2,500.
Yeah. So if they class Kansas.
That's Kansas, yeah. So, I mean, I would say to find people of Kansas, pull your collective heads out of your collective ass.
We'll just have to change them to dick rooms and vaginas.
So I'm gonna give that worse than having to spend 2 hours on the phone over my credit cards.
That's fair. I mean, that affects you more directly than the thing with trans people. But I mean, it's societally it's certainly worse.
Societally worse, yeah, right.
And the gross irony, of course, is that the Republican Party will continue to act as though it is the party of limited government, but they want to legislate which porcelain bowl you can urinate into.
Ways that they restrict or tax certain businesses.
It's limited in the ways that they want to limit it to.
Right.
Right, and grossly overreaching in the ways that they would like it to be grossly overreaching.
Exactly.
All right. So hey, let's talk about things that don't suck. What doesn't suck, guys? Tell me what things that don't suck.
The downloadable content for Dark Souls 2.
All right. Sure. Let's talk Souls. I've started playing Demon Souls again.
Did you?
I actually made it somewhere.
Isn't Dark Souls 3 release is like imminent
It
at
is.
this point?
A couple weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, the 18th of April, I think.
Probably a little bit related to my
What?
playing Demon Souls again.
So when did April become like the new November is what I want to know.
When people realized that it was a bad idea to release every game ever in the same month.
But now they're just releasing every game ever in like April.
Yeah, but
like,
it's at the end of the fiscal year, so they have to.
I guess I looked at it. Well, doesn't that depend on the
been that way
company?
for
Like,
I
I suppose. I feel like it depends on the company. Like it depends on when your company went into business.
I don't know why. What's what?
I just looked
what's
at the list of upcoming releases and it
It's
was
the
like
11th, by the way. Dark Souls 3 is out on the 11th of April. So 2 weeks.
let me take a look. It's like Uncharted 4 and
Didn't it get pushed again?
new Ratchet and Clank, and not that I'm aware of.
I thought it did.
I don't think I can bring myself to care about another Ratchet and Clank game. And I like those games a lot.
I'm totally down with another Ratchet and Clank game. What I'm not sure I can care about is another Uncharted
The
game.
movie.
I don't know about the movie. I
Yeah.
can't say one way or the other on that, but
Yeah,
I
Dark
need someone to tell me that it's better than Uncharted 3. Especially with as much trouble as that game seems to be having.
Yeah, it's like Uncharted 4, Dark Souls 3, new Ratchet and Clank, new Star Fox, Bravely Second, Hyrule Warriors Legends,
I don't know. That doesn't seem that.
new
thing is-
Doom is coming in early May.
Yeah.
The new Ninja
Hey,
Turtles game is
fucking
coming in May.
Fuck all
Mirror's
those
Edge is
games.
coming in
Hyper Light
May.
Drifter comes out.
Yeah, in like 10
like a
days. Or no,
week.
8 days.
Apparently, I bought that game at some point because I got an email from it. So,
I mean, I remember it, but
I feel like I knew that you bought that game. I feel like we discussed that along.
I forgot. I still had the link to the pre-order thing because I was kind of waffling on it, but I must have just bought it at some point. So whatever. I'm excited. I really hope that game is
as good as it
everything
looks.
that it
Just
looks to be.
really fucking good.
It's been a long time since a really great overhead sort of
Action
RPG.
RPG.
Yeah, came out. Well, I guess
Link
Delta.
Between Worlds?
Link Between Worlds was the last one, but that was like 3 years ago. So, regardless, yeah. So,
I'm
Dark
psyched
Souls
for that.
2 DLC. 2 of the 3 pieces of DLC are like 2 of the best areas in Dark Souls 2, I think. And some of the bosses are kind of bullshit, but
In a
all
Dark
3
Souls game?
well, it's one of the mechanics that they kind of fell in love with in Dark Souls 2, which was to address one of the problems with a lot of the boss designs in Dark Souls 1 is that you could get up close to enemies and sort of just circle strafe them and like hit them in the butt. And generally speaking, that area was safe for most of their attacks. So they tried to address that in Dark Souls 2, and the two biggest ways that they did that was by either putting multiple smaller, weaker enemies in the same room with you, so that way to try to push you back,
Or lashing tails all the time.
or by giving them either a charge up move that made their normal attacks more powerful and have a wider radius, or just giving them like this fart attack where they would just like poof out a burst of energy and knock you down and do a bunch of damage to you.
It sounds real dangerous. I wouldn't want to get hit by that.
So a lot of the bosses in the DLC areas have both of those things. They charge up and do like have a crazy huge radius of attack and a amount of damage in their charged up forms, and they have like that fart attack that does a bunch of damage. So it's just like very frustrating to fight them one-on-one in some cases, but you can still kind of, once you figure out the attack patterns, it still isn't that difficult to beat them one-on-one. But just to see that mechanic repeated that many times, it gets kind of old. But the areas that all three of the areas I think are really well designed, and they're quite a bit tighter than a lot of the areas in Dark Souls 2, which was kind of like the other big problem with Dark Souls 2 is that a lot of the areas are just kind of too big, and so it shows off how flat and empty those are, and how like small how sort of like small each like tile texture is, and so it just makes everything look really flat and boring. Whereas the original Dark Souls was a little smaller, so it sort of hid that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Dark
better.
Souls is plenty big too.
Yeah, Dark Souls 2 is a lot bigger. It's like the difference between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask in terms of scale, just like the amount of time it takes to get from point A to point B. And I played through all of Dark Souls 2 a second time, and like my second full run of Dark Souls 1 took me 20 hours, and it still took me almost like 35 hours to finish Dark Souls 2 a second time, because there's just that much more shit to do in that game. And that's without the DLC. The DLC took me another like 10 or something, but...
Did you have to start over, or you just wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to do a different character. I didn't think it would take that long, honestly. And I bought the Scholar of the First Sin edition with all the DLC, which made it look nicer and sort of remixed some of the areas and the enemies and the item placements.
Yeah, how do you like the remix stuff? I've heard mixed things about it.
Yeah, it makes some of the opening areas a little harder. Like they put a really hard enemy in one of the first areas that you have to go to. But I think for the most part, it made more sense. And in some cases, the remixed areas are quite a bit easier and a lot. They make like the enemy placements make more sense. Like in the first one, in the original release, you would see these guys. Like with these armor types that would make sense to be in the areas that they were in. So they shuffled those around so that way that they were kind of in the areas that they should be in. And they added a dragon in one area and some other stuff, but for the most part, I think it's a stronger overall experience than the original Dark Souls.
Would you say better for a first-time player, or do you have to kind of know the game already to appreciate the reshuffling?
No, I think it's probably better for a first-time player too. I don't think it seemed harder because I would get surprised by things that I wasn't expecting, but I don't think the challenges were actually that much more difficult. Just the thing, playing a little bit of Dark Souls 2, and I've been mixing in, just like messing around with a New Game Plus Dark Souls 1 run of my character with the Great Club, the giant tree branch thing. Dark Souls 2 is it's quite a bit slower, and it takes you a lot longer to get yourself to the point where you're as quick as you are kind of right off the bat in the original Dark Souls. Because you don't get as many invincibility frames on your roll, like that's determined by a stat, and so until you pump that stat up enough, it's really hard to dodge attacks and stuff like that, so you have to be more cautious.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. approach to it. I think that if it had just been the same as Dark Souls 1, it would have gotten boring quickly. I'm glad that they like messed with those mechanics a little bit and experimented. And it sounds like they've tweaked all that stuff again in Dark Souls 3. So, hopefully the changes make it interesting to play it again. To go back into that style. And there's a lot more weapon types and different things you can do in Dark Souls 2. I think there's a wider range of viable builds in Dark Souls 2 than there even was in Dark Souls 1.
That's saying something.
And there's a lot more upgrade stuff. So like, I'm playing as like a Dex Faith character. So I have like a spear that does lightning damage, and I have a rapier that just does plain damage, so I can buff it with fire or whatever if I need that kind of stuff. And it just means that you can be a little bit more flexible in that game, which is kind of fun. Like in the original Dark Souls, there was never a reason to infuse any of your weapons with elemental damage. You were just always better.
To it.
Yeah, but there
You
was
wouldn't want
never
them all the time that way. Yeah.
right. You would want to make like a really strong sword or a really strong club and then just use that all the time. And if you needed it, you could use a magic spell or an item to give it temporary fire or lightning or whatever. But in Dark Souls 2, like there's more scaling with that. The lightning scales with faith. So by having high dex and high faith, I have a spear that does lightning damage. So I do lots of physical damage and lightning damage, and so it makes it more viable for getting around. I'm running out of breath, but yeah, it seems it's still. I still think that like that game is way too fucking long, but there's some really good stuff in there. And I'm excited for Dark Souls 3. How's Demon Souls, Mike?
Well, I haven't got very far in it yet. So what happened originally is I played the game for like maybe 2 hours, and I just kind of bounced off it and put it down. And what I didn't like about the beginning of Demon Souls is that it really railroads you. Like, you get one area you can go to, and you get one build you can kind of use. Well, you can choose a different starting class, but you can't upgrade your character, and there's not a lot of choice for like getting new weapons and things. So it's just like, play this chunk until you master it, and then the real game starts. So I finally came back to it like earlier this week, picked it up, and I managed to beat the first area, beat the first boss. And so finally it's kind of like opened itself up for me. And I've only played a little bit since then. In fact, I only played just tonight, and I went to, what's it called? The Valley of the whatever, where it's all...
Valley of Defilement?
Valley of Defilement. And that place sucks ass.
You might want to save that for
I
last.
think I'm going to go back there later. Yeah, I spent
That's
like half an hour
the
just
light town of Demon Souls.
I know. Ugh. That was...
The frame rate is very bad there.
The camera is also really shitty because there's always these walkways. You know, you're kind of like going up and down walkways, and so when you're below the walkways, then they're blocking your view sometimes. And I just got knocked off a whole bunch of times, and there's those guys with the flame spears. So yeah, I was a little down on that section right now, but I'm excited to dive back in again and try some of the new places that I haven't been.
Yeah, the Valley of Defilement has a really good payoff, but it is by far the least pleasant area in any of the Souls games.
All right, well,
yeah,
good.
The Tower of Latria is awesome, especially that first prison area. That's the scariest, moodiest place in any of those games.
Is that where the mind flayers are?
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
That bell sound that they make is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
And I even like there's an underground, the Stonefang Tunnel, I think, is like underground, like a mining area, which is kind of neat. And then there's another area with a bunch of like samurai skeleton guys, which is pretty cool. I like all the areas in that game quite a bit, but
Even
the Valley Defilement is hamstrung a lot by how bad the frame rate and how bad the camera is.
It's also just not fun to be on walkways.
Yeah.
I mean,
They always do it to you though in those games.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it in Dark Souls. I'm not enjoying it now.
Yep.
But I am looking forward to having the flexibility to get in there and actually customize my character a bit. So I think I'm going to do like a strength faith build maybe.
Yeah.
I can find some good things to smash people's faces with. Get a couple
there's a really cool greatsword called the Moonlight Greatsword, which is actually, it's in all of From's games, but in that game specifically, it ignores shield and blocking damage. So
yeah, I managed to get it in Dark Souls with my character who couldn't profit from it at all. And in fact, my mage character is kind of stalled out because I really want to get the Moonlight Greatsword for my mage, but the actual process of getting it sucks really hard with the character that I have. So I need to find someone to help me co-op that, and I haven't really bothered.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in Demon Souls. Yeah, you have to beat the first boss, right, before you can even level up.
Yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
Phalanx.
Yeah.
I didn't know you played that game.
Yeah, I played it quite a bit off and on. I didn't necessarily make a huge amount of progress. I think I defeated like 3 or 4 bosses.
Okay.
But it's one of it. Like before Dark Souls came out, like I would play it for a while, for like a couple days, and then get frustrated and stop. And not like where I was like, just fuck this game and I hate it or whatever. It's just more of a, I can't let this thing punch me in the dick for a little while. I just gotta not play this for a bit.
I think that's
Like
a good, healthy reaction to the Dark Souls game.
Yeah, and so the last time I played it, I actually felt like I was getting my head around it, and that's what I defeated like two more bosses. I was like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. And I went into the area, whose name I can't remember, but they have the fucking flying manta ray things.
Oh yeah. That's I forget what it's called, but that's the one with the skeleton samurais.
Yes, and I knew when you said Skeleton Samurai, I knew exactly what you were talking about because I like worked my way up to the sort of the second part of that, and I even defeated one of those guys, and then I came around a corner and some fucking spikes just like ratcheted down the hallway and killed me. And I was like, oh, god damn it. Alright,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. Now I know those are there. I'm good to go. And I went in there and I totally forgot about the fucking samurai guy respawning. And I walked past his door and he just like, sliced me in half in like 3 seconds. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm done.
Oh, are you talking about the red ones with like the dual
Yes.
katanas?
Yep.
Yeah, those guys are really
Yeah.
hard.
Fuck those
The
guys.
dual katanas or the ghoul katanas?
Ooh.
Spooky.
Yeah, hot tip for that area, those skeletons are weak to blunt damage, so they're actually easier to kill with your bare fist than with a sword.
Wow.
So it's like, if you have a crappy beginner sword, it might take 4 or 5 or more hits to kill them. With your fist, it'll probably only take you 2 to 3.
Wow. I picked up a mace in shitty zone where I was, so
Yeah.
that should
Oh yeah,
help
that's
me.
a holy mace. That's pretty good, I think.
It doesn't seem very good so far. It has low damage and it doesn't seem to scale particularly well with anything, but maybe it's gonna trade or something.
It's not too bad early on. There's a really good spear in that area, I think, called the Mirdan Hammer, which is how I beat the game the first time, which is a spear that does blunt damage.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, it's like a pole arm or something. It's not really a spear, but it has
There's a weed
an
joke in there somewhere.
attack animation similar to a spear, so you can hold the shield up and attack from behind it. I had a lot of fun. I used that with faith scaling, I think, and there's not very many decent miracles in Demon Souls, I don't think, but anyway, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so report back on that if I don't get distracted by Hyper Light Drifter when that comes out.
Yeah. I don't know. What about Kurt or Joe? You guys?
So,
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, I don't know, finally, like, I guess like 22 years too late, I started playing Super Metroid.
It's never too late, though.
That game's okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned to love that game.
You learned to love it?
My first time through, I did not have the greatest time.
Really? Okay, tell me about that. Because everybody I talk to is like, how have you not played Super Metroid yet? We should burn you at the stake.
Well, it's pretty crazy that you haven't played that game, considering it's a super important classic, side-scrolling game.
Right.
So the first time that I played it, I mean, I didn't know where everything was, so I spent a lot of time looking for stuff. And at one point, I don't know how far you are in the game at this point. Maybe how many bosses have you beaten?
Like 2? Not very. I started it, and then I was working a whole bunch on the new Sam Name Different game, which just got posted today. And so I had to Like I haven't played that much, so I've beat like I think just 1 or 2 bosses. I'm not that far.
All right. Well, anyway, I won't talk about what happened exactly, but one of the bosses, there's a passageway to get to him that I missed, and so I spent like 4 hours running over everywhere in the map just trying to figure out where I needed to go next, just because I missed this one thing.
Yep.
And I just got really kind of, fed up with it. And the same thing kind of happened the first time I played Symphony of the Night, too. Although in that case, that was a real dick move on that game's part. That was the fucking clock tower passageway that only opens at certain times randomly. Which, fuck that, man. That is such a bad idea. Anyway, so yeah, my first playthrough was a little frustrating. It took me like 11 hours, whereas now I can finish that game in like 3 hours. But every time I've gone back to it, I've enjoyed it more, and I've learned a little bit of some of the crazy tricks and shortcuts and skips that you can do, and they are so crazy and cool and fun to do that I just think it's a game that rewards mastery.
Okay, sure.
That's what I
mean, a lot of games do that, I suppose.
I don't know. A lot of games are best the first time you play them because it's like, oh, this is all new and surprising and fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think what I find interesting about it is how much people say that that Symphony of the Night, well, it's not everybody, but some people say like Symphony of the Night ripped it off, and I think that's weird in that the only way Symphony of the Night ripped it off is that it's a side-scrolling action game with a continuous world map.
And with power-ups that give you access to new areas.
Right. Well, but Super Metroid wasn't the first game to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
like,
aside from Metroid, what was?
Xanadu.
Right, Xanadu and Battle of Olympus and Clash of Demon Head. And
Before Super Metroid.
Oh, sure, but I mean, they name check Super Metroid because that's the good one, but obviously that's,
Pitfall 2.
Super Pitfall. Yeah, I mean, there were that. Even the first Castlevania for MSX was sort of like that. So it's but Symphony of the Night mechanically is a very different game. Having just also replayed that game, like very different game mechanically than Super Metroid.
Nothing in the world feels like Super Metroid.
I mean, I guess you could make the argument that like some of the Metroid sequels do.
Nope.
No,
like Zero Mission feels Zero Mission feels totally different.
Metroid feels very stiff, especially if you it. To me.
Yeah, I mean, Zero Mission, I mean, not surprisingly to me, feels like a smoothed out Metroid, which I agree is more stiff.
It's also much faster. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's slow.
You got those really floaty jumps in Super Metroid, and yeah, like Samus is super zippy in Zero Mission and Fusion. No, I've never played another game that has the same feel as Super Metroid. I'm not saying that it's like the best feel, but I'm just saying it's very distinctive.
Sure. Like, I guess from what I've played so far, when people say that shit, what's that game that just got re-released on, I think, Xbox One and PC? Shadow Complex.
Shadow Complex, yeah.
Which I liked a lot, and I mean, I hadn't played Super Metroid, but like, people are like, that is like a straight up rip-off of Super Metroid. I can see, even as far as I am now, I can totally see,
right. Yeah.
where that's coming from. Symphony of the Night, again, just mechanically is.
I'd agree with that.
I got a bit of a claim to that because they already had like Simon's Quest, which is kind of in that mold. So it's not like it's not like they just aped Super Metroid entirely, but
yeah, I think it's just Super Metroid is like a landmark for that style of 2D platform world design more than anything. In the same way that
Super Metroid has been top since it came out.
I like Symphony of the Night a lot more than Super Metroid. I just think it's a more pleasant game to play. I think that it's a lot bigger, and there's some areas in Symphony of the Night that aren't quite as tight as some of the stuff in Super Metroid, but I like the combat, the feel of running around and dodging and, the different weapons and stuff. Like, I like how smooth Castlevania Symphony of the Night is.
Very smooth.
Yeah. I've only played Super Metroid once.
Well, again, the more you go back to it and learn all the different crazy shit you can do, the better it gets. But you know, you have to be willing to put that time in. But Joe's coming into it so late that you've already heard about all the crazy moves that Samus has. Whereas when I was playing that game when I was in high school, you know, I didn't have anything except for the attract mode, basically, to show me some of the crazy things you can do.
There's that weird ostrich thing that shows you how to wall jump inside the game.
The ostrich, it's the little monkey dudes that show you how to wall jump.
Is it a monkey dude? I thought it was like a...
There are 3 of them. They're the Edicorns, trust me.
Okay. It's like I said, it's been a really long time since I played the game. I thought there was like some kind of two-legged bird.
There is an ostrich.
Process.
They teach you to do a different move.
Oh,
But there are a whole bunch of other ones that are not really hinted at, except if you just let the game run at the title screen and watch the attract mode.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. I haven't done that, but I've heard that like she does like a shine spark in the attract mode if you.
Yeah, and a crystal flash and all sorts of crazy stuff. And the attract mode actually loops over more than one cycle. Like you literally have to let the game sit there for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes to see the whole thing. And if you're like me when you're 15 years old, you watch it and go, "What the fuck just happened? Like, how do I make
Is that
that
stuff
happen?"
in
how
the
do I do
manual?
that?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you can't really do that anymore, right? With the internet, everyone figures everything out within a couple seconds for the most part. Which I guess is why we have ARGs.
Well, I
Give people
mean,
something that they can't decipher in like, it takes at least a couple days.
Dark Souls and Demon Souls are the last series to really have that going on for them. And now there's, 3 giant wikis that have all that stuff laid out pretty...
Well, yeah, and it's easier to hide in a modern game like a secret or like a weird interaction with an NPC or a monster or something like that. But in Metroid, they hid some of your main abilities.
Right.
Never told you about them. You don't need them to finish the game. But if you know them, it totally changes the way you can approach the game.
Right, which...
It's kind of a dick move, but it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing my best to avoid exposing myself to that stuff.
Yeah, but you've heard the phrase wall jump in your life.
Yeah.
So you know that that's a thing.
Yes.
It's really hard to do, though. I don't... So what do you think, Joe, so far? Is it...
I like it. I like it so
Okay.
far. There is some... I mean, there's some element of... I mean, I've figured out that basically, like, if you're in a situation where you feel like you're stuck, just bomb everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, it's like, I don't know, this door is closed, and there's a wall over here, so I don't really know where I'm supposed to go. I guess I'll just go into morph ball mode and bomb the shit out of every, like, pixel that I can.
I mean, that is kind of a thing in these games.
Yeah.
Poke everywhere.
Well, there's not, like, that's not a thing in Castlevania, right? Like, there are breakable walls, but you almost, in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you almost never need to break a wall to advance.
Right. Well, you know by
Yeah,
like
there's
when you're
secrets
blocked by not having an ability or whatever in Symphony of the Night, you know it because it is like designed to look, like you need the mist to pass through the gates. So when you get to those grates, you can't get through until you get the mist or whatever.
Well, Super Metroid does that thing where if you shoot a block, it turns into the symbol of the thing that can destroy it.
But
so
you're
that
just saying
helps.
sometimes you just have to carpet bomb everything. And,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
often, all the time. It is
Right.
baked into the game, and it's true that it's not necessarily the most fun thing to do.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Super Metroid is a lot better about that than OG Metroid, though.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
I
Super
think we've
Metroid
talked
does
about.
eventually give you kind of an out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but I'm not that big of an OG Metroid fan, which actually might have something to do with why I never played Super Metroid back in the day.
Original Metroid's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, it
Great atmosphere.
great
It has
atmosphere.
one great song.
Great atmosphere.
I think Zero Mission is the optimal way to play Metroid 1.
That I will.
Your mission's pretty tight.
Yeah.
I like Metroid Prime is my favorite Metroid.
That's a very good game.
Yeah.
That
Probably
one
my
I
favorite
never,
Metroid for a while.
Maybe someday I will finish it.
that one I never got into either. Honestly, Metroid is just a series that's sort of, I don't want to say it passed me by because I played,
Yeah.
for a
just-
little bit of a
never
lot of
taken
that.
it to heart.
Right. I've always been way more of a Castlevania guy, just sort of general. And what's weird is I do love Metroidvania style games. It's just that the one of the namesakes never really connected with me, I guess. I mean, but by the time we get to Metroid Prime, they're sort of different. They're first person shooters and stuff. And I just I don't know. It just, but I do like Super Metroid, and but I've also heard that that's like pretty far and away the peak. Like I mean, should I play Metroid Fusion? Like
Fusion is kind of a crappy game.
See, this is what I've heard.
Well, it depends, you know what? It depends what you want. Here's the, like, do you enjoy the hunting around for secrets and like, you know, and trying to puzzle out where you can, how to get that upgrade that you see in the corner, or is that just tedious for you?
I mean, I like that a bit, but I mean, like I said, what I don't like is I'm gonna roll around on the floor and bomb every pixel now because I don't know what else to do.
None of that. So the thing is, Fusion is like a Metroid game if you took all the exploration out of it, or most of the exploration out of it. It's like Metroid is almost a straight action game, and it even has some sections that are kind of like horror, which are actually really well made.
Yeah, those are good.
Like replaying Symphony of the Night, I was surprised at how well it held up in general, right? It doesn't. With Symphony of the Night, the thing is always like, I mean, there's some parts where you do, to get certain items, you do have to explore, you do have to try different things, but like Eric was saying, like, if you get to a point where you're like, I'm not really sure where to go, the answer is to go all the places you've already been, and you should have some ability now that you didn't have before that will help you get past whatever that thing, like some dead end that you've been to earlier.
Unless you
get by it now. Unless it's that shitty clock.
Fucking clock, I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true for most of the game, but to actually get like the proper secret endings in the Castlevania games always requires more than that.
Yeah, I mean, but part of that is also what I enjoy. Like, I don't mind getting the shitty ending the first time and then being like, okay, clearly I need to do more.
De-shitify myself.
Right. Like the first time I played through Aria of Sorrow, I definitely got the ending where Soma turns into Dracula.
Which is kind of awesome in its own way.
Right, but I was like, well, that's not right.
Probably not what's supposed to happen.
This is not the
Yeah, Symphony's bad ending is not quite so clearly telegraphed as being there's more going on here.
Yeah, there's what you well, it depends on how many times you encounter Maria, and if you find one of the rings, the gold ring or the silver ring, and you can sort of parse out, you know, if you're curious enough to try to find the other ring and make sure you open the floor in the clock tower, I think you'd probably figure it out. But otherwise, if you don't find either of those rings and you just fight Richter and kill him, you're gonna be like, I don't know what to do. But also at that time, like if you picked up any magazine off the rack, it would tell you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, you need to get these glasses from Maria in the center section, you know, the clock tower, and then, you know, instead of attacking him, attack the orb, and you'll go to the second half of the game.
I also don't like the second half of Symphony very much. I find going the inverted castle is just kind of annoying because all the jumps are the wrong heights.
They are, but by the time you're there, you've got like 3 different ways that you can deal with that.
Well, you can deal with it, but it's annoying.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's just kind of
It's just tedious.
Yeah, the problem is that it's not, a lot of the sections in the inverted castle are like not very occupied. Like there's some sections where there just are no enemies, and it's like, well, okay, like what am I doing? I'm just getting map coverage for the sake of getting map coverage.
And all the awesome music is gone.
But I do like, I mean,
Just put on an Opeth CD.
There are things that I like a lot about Symphony. I don't want to come across as a hater. I enjoy Symphony, and there are things that I think are really cool about it. But when I go back to Super Metroid, I get the feeling that it's just a more refined game. Like every part of it is pretty tight.
It's a much smaller game.
I'll have to finish it, right? Like, because I can't really, I'm so not that far into it that I don't feel comfortable making an assertion. But I will say about Symphony that one thing I like that it seems like Super Metroid does not allow, and again, I could be wrong because I haven't played enough of it, but you have a lot of options in Symphony of the Night as far as how you equip Alucard and how that informs like the way you play the game. You know what I mean? So, right. So if you can get like I had a sword that I forgot what it's called already, but it's a sword that it feeds on blood. So every time you blood heal, the sword gets stronger. But like it never says that. It just says that the sword is bloodthirsty. That's all it says. So unless you know that or figure it out, it looks like a shitty sword. But if you keep using it and blood healing while you're using, because it automatically gives you a blood heal when you're using it, which is the only reason that I think you would use it is because you're low on health and you'd be like, oh shit, I need to like heal up. I'll use this sword that anytime an enemy bleeds on me, I get like, 10 hit points back or whatever. And as you use that sword, the more blood heals you do with it, the stronger it gets. And actually, if you've got the patience, you can make it like the strongest sword in the game.
Does that
But
take like
it takes
hours and hours?
Yeah, the prescribed method of doing that is literally to tape down the square button and like stand in a certain spot where mermen like infinitely spawn and just like leave the game there. Yeah, just like set the controller there and leave it for like 3 hours. That's which I didn't do, but I got it to the point where it was a strong enough weapon that I used it for a good long while, basically until I got the Chrysogrim. It's like as soon as you get the Upside Down Castle, like that's, but you don't. But the Chrysogrim also like has its upsides and downsides, and if you have all the Alucard gear and you equip that like gives you, a bunch of different buffs and all this stuff, and so like there's a lot of options for how you want to do it, and I don't get that sense with Super Metroid. Like I get the sense like based on like the one upgrade I have to my arm cannon so far, it's like okay, you got this upgrade, now you're just going to use this until you get the next upgrade.
It's much less combat focused, and there are a lot less options for fighting dudes.
Yeah. So.
It's much more about movement and exploration, and there's a lot more crazy shit you can do to get around the map in Super Metroid than there is in.
That's fair. Yeah. So
also,
I don't know.
like by the end of the game, everybody is pretty much the same as Castlevania. But there are some interesting choices to be made early on, as far as using a heavier or lighter weapons or whatever.
Right. Like you can use the first strong sword you get and do as much damage as you can on a single hit. But like my last playthrough, I stuck with the rapier for until I got that bloodthirsty sword. And then I stuck with that sword until I got the Chrysogrim. So basically I only used 3 weapons, but the rapier does the thing where if you do quarter circle forward and hit square, it does like a multi-stab attack. No, it doesn't do a projectile, it does a multi-stab attack.
Combo.
And yeah, and so you can get like 10 strikes in one shot. And then, like there's the shield, like if you have the Alucard shield and the shield rod, that's a pretty broken option and stuff like that. A lot more, like you said, a lot more options for combat than Metroid.
What does the Alucard shield do with the shield rod?
It casts all of the spells
At once?
It casts all of the other shield rod spells at one time. Yeah. And then there's another weapon. There's another sword that you can do a quarter circle forward with, and it summons like an army of skeletons, and they'll just like charge forward and fuck up whatever is in front of you.
Yeah, the real beauty is just the amount of crazy stuff packed into that game.
Yeah.
The amount of one-off experiences that you can have that they don't repeat anywhere.
Right. Yeah, and there's that thing where you can equip the sword familiar, and if it levels up enough, it eventually becomes a usable sword, and it will keep gaining levels and stuff. So it's just, but Metroid really nails. I mean, it's a totally different atmosphere, which I appreciate. Right? Obviously, it's not like this gothic castle. It's space, which is cool, and that's and the fact that there isn't as much combat and not as many enemies does really contribute to that sort of creepy, lonely, vibe that you get from that series.
And I really felt that Metroid Prime did a better job. I like some of the maps in Super Metroid. I just think are kind of boring to get through. But like Mike said, I didn't bother to master those movement abilities. So
yeah, you're not really playing You're not playing the game fully until you've gotten really good at doing, the shine sparks and the wall jumps. But
then if the world design was more interesting, I would be more interested in playing it more and mastering those abilities, which
I guess I don't think of the world as being boring.
I don't know. I haven't. It's been a really long time since I played it, but
But again, like I didn't really enjoy it until like my second, third playthrough.
yeah.
So, I don't know, man.
Someday maybe I'll go back to it. If I'm gonna go back and play a Super Nintendo game, I'll play Super Mario World and Chrono Trigger, I think.
Chrono Trigger's pretty good. It's sad that my battery died before we got to the end.
Yeah.
We should download a save file and pick that up though, just to get to the end since I was so close.
You
but-
need to hack the save file, no? Do you have a dedicated viewer who'd be willing to replay and give all the characters the same names?
No, I don't. I doubt that very much, and I wouldn't. I don't.
I think we would
think I
just
would want to ask them to.
there are databases that have saves at different locations in
Yeah.
the game. So we were just gonna try and get one that was close and
Yeah.
at least get the ending. The only thing Joe didn't do was get the rainbow shell, I think.
Yeah, that was the last subquest we were doing, and then
Yeah,
that was the
where
last
we
thing.
were.
That was what we were about to do, and then the battery.
I think
died,
we may
but-
have even been in the dungeon to get the rainbow shell. And
We either were in it or we had gone. We were just outside of it. That was like
we,
the last
we
save.
saved Cyrus. We
We saved
did
Salt's
the,
mom.
did we do the Sunstone?
Yeah, we did the
Did you beat the Son of Sun? I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
I
are
think so.
the Sunstone and the Rainbow Shell are kind of intertwined, anyways. But
Did that thing where we poured soda on that guy's grave. Poured one out.
Toma, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that
I think
game's really
you
neat.
even fought. You beat Ozzy's fort the second time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Did all that
Oh.
shit. That game, I gotta tell you, I'm retroactively pissed about the way Japanese RPGs have gone since then.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
You know.
I spent like 2 hours this weekend trying to find an RPG for the 3DS because I'm just kind of in the mood for something like that, and I just can't. Like, I look at them and I just don't want to play any of those games. I don't, you know, it's like
Is
the
wait,
the
what's
amount
that
of
one?
systems and stuff that are stacked up on them, and I don't like the.
You played the one that was from the Final Fantasy Tactics guy, right? The downloadable one. What the fuck was that called? It's like
Jesus.
the chess pieces or whatever.
Yeah,
Not chess
that's a
pieces.
crazy
Oh no,
game. Crimson
I didn't
Shroud.
play that.
Crimson
Crimson
Shroud.
Shroud.
That's like a tabletop RPG practically.
Yeah, that's not.
It is.
That's a totally different thing.
I want another game like Chrono Trigger, and that just isn't.
Turns out it's really hard to make an amazing synthesis of all the good things in a genre.
Right.
With
Or
memorable
what I really
characters
just
and
want.
great art. It doesn't
But
I
really
would play
welcome.
any of those games if they were only 25 hours long too. I think that would make a big difference.
Right.
It's such a downer the way that, I mean, it's kind of since the PS2 era that's all kind of gone that way, where they just made them longer and longer.
Oh, that's been a long-standing thing, though, right? I mean, Final
Well-
Fantasy 7, 8, 9.
Those are all like
Right.
40-hour games,
Yeah.
which is long, but that's okay. Like I can manage 40 hours. It's the fact it's all like the 70, 80, 90-hour ones on PS2 that really kind of screwed it up.
Well,
Yeah,
so
some of those
I-
were
who-
for that long just because of how long the animations and stuff took to play
Right.
out.
uh,
well, that's
Eric,
one I
was it
really-
you
I tried to play like Radiant Historia, and that was just super boring.
Bravely Default didn't trip your trigger?
Yeah, I played the demo of that, and I didn't care for it.
But like, what do you want out of an RPG? Do you want like characters that you like and a decent story, or do you want
Yep.
systems? That's the problem, is that good characters are rare to come by.
I want just some cool, likable characters. I want a battle system that moves really quickly. I want to be able to avoid random battles when I don't want to fight them, and I want the game to be less than 40 hours long.
Maybe we could go back and play like Grandia 2 or something.
I have played Grandia 2. That game is okay. Play
So
that
is
back. Man, I played all like up until 2001-ish. I played all of those games. Like I think Skies of Arcadia and Final Fantasy X were like the last two. Like was like the end of that period for me. But up until that point, I played everything. Like all those shitty fucking PlayStation 1 RPGs. Like,
Legend of Dragoon or whatever?
yeah, I finished Legend of Dragoon. I didn't play because at that point I was reading the Gaming Intelligence Agency, which was a website that
They warned
existed
you.
back in those days. And yeah, like whereas that game was getting like okay-ish review scores, they were way
they
down
savaged
on
it.
that. Is a
Yeah.
very bad Final Fantasy 7/8 type game.
I worked in a game store in college, and we literally had like 7 copies of that game on the shelf at all times.
Yeah,
Like nobody want, and people would keep bringing it in. And I'd be like, I can't take this. They'd be like, why not? I'd be like, because I have like fucking 10 of them. Like
Breath
nobody.
of
this
Fire
game sucks and
4
everybody
I
knows.
played. I mean, there's like Xenogears.
I was playing. I was the same way. Like I was playing whatever I could get my hands on at that point. And even I
Played
was like-
Legend of Legia.
Even I looked at Legend Dragoon and was like, no,
Yeah,
no.
What about those? What were the 2?
I even
shitty
rented and played some
RPGs that-
Shadow Madness, which is really
Oh my
which is
God.
a really bad
Wait.
one.
I
Eric,
played
you play the
a little
Suikoden
bit of that.
games?
Yeah,
All right.
yes.
What were those 2 shitty RPGs that launched?
The
with
first one is the
PS2?
best Suikoden
The first
game.
one's great.
Yeah.
Summoner.
Summoner and Orphan. Is that?
Man,
Is
I
that it?
finished Saga Frontier.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah, I played
Fuck.
that. So that was before. Yeah, no kidding. That was before I got to the point where I just sort of avoided Japanese RPGs altogether. And I remember playing that game and being like, "What the fuck?" Like I
Saga
played
Frontier 2 is actually pretty
This
good.
game beats me. That's what I
that
thought when I
that
got
game.
the
That era is actually what sort of like that game. And then I played Xenogears, which I fucking
Finished
hated.
that game. Like I know I did.
I
It
finished that. Yeah.
was like 80 hours long.
Yep.
Final Fantasy X, I put a lot of hours into, and I got like maybe a little more than halfway through, and I was finally just like, man, fuck this. And then I played Persona 3 Fez because everybody talked about how great it was, and I
I
liked
love
it.
that game.
I mean, I think Mike and I talked about this last week, but I liked it, but I just could like, especially when I was like, okay, I'm like 15 hours in, and like, you know,
Only
I'm on
80
like the
hours to go.
third floor. Yeah, and that's what people were like, oh yeah, you've only got like 80 hours to go, and I
You
was like,
just barely scratched the surface. I'm like,
but
fuck.
then, Mike, was it you who was telling? We were talking about this last week, and you were saying that one of the re-releases of that, maybe on the Vita, cuts out all the social interaction.
No.
bullshit.
So I'm playing Persona 3 now, actually, and I've gotten kind of back into it. And I'm
You
playing
playing the PSP version?
the PSP version on my Vita, and it
Are you
doesn't
playing
cut
as
them
the
out.
lady?
It just streamlines them. It makes it a so all the stuff that's not in the dungeon, you're not running your character around from place to place talking to people. You're just it's all static shots of different areas, and you just kind of page from like it's almost like adventure game style. Like you just move from screen to screen, and you can just click on the people you want to talk to.
That would probably help, because in between like dating and going to fucking kendo club, and then like I was like, I just want to go in the dungeon and fight shit, and like I have to run around in the school, and then I have to run to the fucking this place, that place, the other fucking
Go
If
place.
you're not enjoying like the dating Kendo Club storylines, you shouldn't play Persona 3.
Yep.
All right, well there we go. Then I made the right
That
decision.
answers that question, right?
Anybody want to buy a copy of Persona 3 Fez? I don't know.
I don't, but I have the original Persona 3, and then I have the PSP version.
I own 3 copies of
Ugh. I'm looking at all the old PlayStation 1 RPGs. I can't believe I played all these games.
that game. But yeah, I don't know.
So why isn't there another Chrono Trigger? Why didn't even like Blue Dragon? I heard was like not good, and it was like the same team. of
Because
people.
Chrono Trigger is masterful. It's real hard to make a game that good. Why isn't there another Super Metroid? You know, like
Well, according to some people, there's Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
I mean, that's a good game.
What is
It's
the
not same.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night to Chrono Trigger? Is there one, or nothing even comes close? It seems like.
I mean, personally, I like Final Fantasy 6/3 more than Chrono Trigger. I think in
Came
some.
out
I think
Yeah,
Chrono
it's
Trigger is maybe the better game for most people, but I really like the cast of characters and the story of Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah.
I-
I mean,
I-
Suikoden is pretty much the closest you can get to Chrono Trigger. As far as how snappy the battle system is, and how kind of like lighthearted and kind of likable all the characters are, and
even
the
with
fact that the
108
game can be
characters,
beaten
it's
in
not
less
a
than
million
30
hours.
hours.
Yeah,
it's
Suikoden 1
that's
is like a
25
20-hour
hour
game.
It is.
Great.
Suikoden 1 is a really cool game, and I really like the story.
Yep.
So
the
why
second
does
one is
everybody
really
like-
good too, but it's just way too long. It's like 50 hours.
Okay, I was gonna say everybody talks about how much better the second one. Or not everybody, but a lot of people. say
2 is a
that
much
2
nicer looking game, and it's got a much bigger game. And you know how it is, RPG fans usually like big. Even 2 is pretty compact by modern standards, in that it's like a 45 or 50-hour game. But
And the battle system is the same, so it still
Yeah,
moves.
there's- they're
like in
wicked
Suikoden
fast.
Joe, you have six characters that you control. But as you're picking things, like that battle animations are playing out as you're picking things off the menu, and it's just like 2 seconds per battle animation. It's all 2D sprites.
Well, and there's none of that, like all those flourishes and all that shit that came along.
Right.
None of that shit is there. You're just like, boom, you're in a battle, whack, 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 done.
Like even on the PlayStation game, the load times into the battle are literally like less than
really
a second.
fast.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
ridiculous how fast it is in the
Yeah,
battles.
you wanna get some fucking whiplash as far as game speed is concerned. Go from one of the first 2 games in that series to the third one.
Ah, man, that broke my heart, man.
Yeah.
I played the first 2 and loved them, and then I got the third game, and after 2 hours, I was like, this is too slow. I can't do it.
It's unfucking bearable. The PlayStation 2 Suikoden 3, and the thing is, like,
Also
that game
real ugly.
seemed really interesting because it has like multiple main characters and. But it just moves so fucking slow, it's unplayable.
And it's just like a 70-hour game, I think, so
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine playing that much of that game. It's just, no, too slow.
I
I
don't know,
was really sad. I really wanted to like Suikoden 3.
Yeah.
Because it's also got characters that carry over from the previous games.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so much in
There-
3, but like 1 to 2
there-
is a direct link.
Is that
Yeah.
a thing where your save file transfers over or something?
Technically.
One to two, yeah.
You don't get a
Yeah.
lot for that, but
There's a thing you can do in 2 that makes some, or 1 that makes some special characters appear in 2.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Mass Effect or something.
Don't play Suikoden 1 first because it transfers over. Play it because it's a really awesome game.
Yeah. I guess Mass Effect
It's
2
on PSN, right? It's like $5 on PSN, right?
Yes.
I think.
Konami hasn't taken it down yet because they hate
I
everybody.
hate games.
If they do, I'll loan you my copy.
Sounds good.
There's so many, there's so much room in my heart for a great. I keep trying to play Japanese RPGs, and I just can't. Like,
Play the PlayStation version of Persona 3 with me.
I guess. I mean, well, I have the PSP version, so I can play that.
Sorry, the PSP.
Um, Persona 5 is supposed to be out pretty soon, so my hopes are sky high that that's going to be the game that I want.
Yeah, we'll see.
I
gotta
forgot
read
how you
reviews
didn't you
first.
feel like 4 was not as good as 3?
I didn't like 4 nearly as much.
I didn't like it as much, mostly because I didn't like there was some stuff with some of the characters that just put me off of that game in a big way. But
You
there's
didn't
some
enjoy
great
beating
stuff.
the gay out of Kanji?
Yeah. There is one character who is a girl that dresses like a boy, and that's a big plot thread in that, which is a thing
And
that has
with
popped
all
up
of the
seemingly
deftness
a
of-
lot in a lot of Japanese games that I've played recently. That's played for shock value in a way that I don't like. And then there's a character that is a tough, like, biker-looking dude who likes to sew and gets constantly mocked mercilessly with nobody ever really standing up for him for that. And it's like they try to deal with those themes without doing it in a tactful or considerate way.
They do about as good of a job as you'd expect Japan to do on this stuff.
So really incredibly
Well,
shitty.
or any, name any, like, Adam Sandler movie that has a gay joke in it. You know what I mean? It's like that level of total fucking bullshit.
No, it just came down to the cast for me, and I think the fact that fundamentally they're very similar games, but it's like the setting and characters and music better in Persona 2, so...
I'm hoping. I love 5 looks the style of 5.
Real stylish, yeah.
I hope that I hope the PlayStation 3 version is because I'm not buying a PlayStation 4 to play that shit. But
You're not going to buy a PlayStation 4 so you can get PlayStation VR?
nope. No. Nope.
Are you sure?
Yep, pretty sure. Ask me about VR in 5 years, then I'll have an opinion on it. I hope VR is awesome. I hope there's a bunch of great games that come out for it, but like I'm so sick of hearing about VR at this point.
Mike and I had an extended discussion about VR after we went off the air last week.
Is it
Oh, did
any,
you?
any
We talked
different
about
than
it a bunch,
the other
like-
extended discussions of VR we've had?
2 or 3 weeks ago when I was here too, because
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little different because more, like, the PSVR price had come out and there was some more stuff about, like... I mean, we mostly just talked about how... I mean, at this point, if you want the VR experience that badly, Sony's sort of gotten a leg up by deciding that, the system, the stupid fucking camera that's not in the fucking box for whatever reason, and the headset are going to cost you, $50 more than an Oculus and, less than a Vive, and you don't have to have a computer that's gonna with a video card that costs whatever it costs that can actually run.
It's only a $300 video card. It's not
In
that
your
expensive.
countries.
300 American dollars. But,
Right. So
but I mean, if you're like, it seems weird to have to factor in the price of a PC, because if you're a person that plays games on PC, then you've upgraded in the last year or two, then you're going to be there. And if you haven't, then you're going to upgrade in the next 2 or 3 years, and you're going to be there anyway. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
like I know I'll definitely have a capable PC by the time I can afford one of those headsets.
Well, I mean, you have a processor now, right? That's
yeah, but I
powerful.
need to buy the video card, and that's
Right.
you know, again, that's like 400 and 450.
No, I'm not saying it's cheap, and I'm not saying that anybody should run out and do that. But I just, when you're buying a PC, there's a lot more to getting a PC than just you're not just buying a PC so you can play games in VR with it. That PC.
right, but I'm saying if you don't have the video card, you need to upgrade the video card. That's going to be an extra. I'm assuming you have a PC. But the
Well,
$300
yeah, but I
video
mean, you
card,
also
or
have to
like a
have-
$400 video card.
Like one of the most common and most popular processors that people are putting in gaming PCs over the last like 3 or 4 years. Is it 5520K, I think. I don't know. I can't remember which one it is, but it's like a Core i5 that came out a couple years ago, and like that one's not good enough to run that stuff. But well, my point is, like,
processors are going to limit things for people.
yeah, like I have a Core i7 920, and that's not in the compatibility list. So like I'd have to buy a new I mean, my processor's 7 years old at this point, but regardless, I mean, you're looking at like a $1,200 PC, $1,000 PC, depending on, you know, if you've got a monitor and a power supply and a case that you can recycle back in, which, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but like I said, if you're somebody that's going to be putting together a gaming PC, then that's how much money you're going to spend on it anyway.
Right,
Probably.
if you're not trying to fuck yourself.
Right, and you know, like that's the level and beyond that stuff is targeted at. So, I don't know. The prices seem, like I
For
said,
first gen, it's totally fine.
yeah, it's just all about what games come out for that.
Right, that's the thing.
And
Atari 2600 was expensive when it came out at first, you know?
yeah,
By the time I was a kid, they were under $50. $50.
They're expensive. They're getting expensive again now. I saw somebody link to an auction that they were like, "This 2600 is a good deal," and I'm like, "I got mine at a garage sale for like $10, and it came with like 20 games." That was, of course, like 15 years ago.
well, here's a question then. If you could get into VR for like say $400 would get you whatever, and you could just
I can. I have a
you do
PS.
that?
I have a PS4, and I can, so I can.
Yeah,
No.
No.
$400.
Would anybody here do that?
I'm probably the closest to saying yes, but I don't even know if I would for that. So I think you knew the time when I was talking about how I did a VR thing at a library.
Yeah, you did the.
No,
yeah.
that was he was here.
Yeah,
that was
we
when
were
we were playing
there.
Street Cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, and I really enjoyed it, but I also, my initial impression was like, wow, these headsets don't look as good as I thought they would based on all like the feedback people are, you know, all the podcasts and things I've heard.
You were saying you didn't think the pixel density was there.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, that was not a problem
Well,
just because I was using
The gear, right? The gear is the weakest of all of the headsets, I believe.
But this was just
Like,
video, right? This is for the most part 3D video made with one of those camera ball things, and the Gear VR actually has, I think, more pixels than the really expensive ones that are coming out. So, like, sure, if it was 3D rendered stuff, I understand, but that's not going to give you more pixels. It's just a pure screen quality thing. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't tried.
Well, the
any real
view,
ones.
the angle on the gear is also
Yes,
the most.
the angle, the
limited.
viewing angle is very small, and it would be way better to have the bigger one. But I don't even know if like the 110 degrees they have is enough, because like a human being's visual field is like almost 180.
It's
Yeah.
more, isn't
Well,
it?
um,
You include your
Kind of.
periphery? I
Kind
don't
of.
know.
It would
Right.
actually. So resolution would be the only thing that would determine it. How far away from your face it is would determine it. So if the screen is really small and it has to be really close, you'd be more likely to notice the space between the pixels.
The field of view was
Insane.
definitely kind of claustrophobic on the Gear VR, but that I know is better on the commercial stuff that's coming out. Anyway, so my answer is for $400, I don't know if I would buy one of those. If you could get me a whatever the next generation is gonna look like, then I would consider paying that much.
The PSVR is a thing that if in 2 years I can get a used one for $200, and there's a handful of games like Eve Valkyrie or stuff that I want to play on it, then like I would consider it. But for $400, nah, not doing that.
I don't know if there are going to be a lot of good games, but there are going to be a fucking lot of games from everything that I've read.
Well, yeah,
it sounds,
Sony's
it sounds
got
like a lot of Nintendo Wii games.
Right.
Listening to them described on the Giant Bombcast and looking at articles and stuff, it really sounds like a bunch of like tech demos and mini game collections and stuff.
There are a lot of people putting a lot of effort into developing different VR games and experiences, so I'm hopeful that will give people enough ideas to make some actually really solid, serious good games like 2 or 3 years down the line.
Man, I'm trying to find just a list of the tech specs for all the different headsets, and I'm having a hell of a time.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem too, right? We've talked about this before, but when it comes to development, which headset are you developing for?
Well, you're not. I mean, I don't think you're really developing for a headset necessarily. I mean, that's like saying which television are you developing for.
No, it's not. It's not like saying that though, because
I don't think all
televisions
that
have
stuff.
standard.
We don't know yet. I don't
Right.
what's compatible with
Right,
what. Because like Oculus has
talking
its
about-
own store, and the Vive stuff will all be sold through Steam, and the PlayStation stuff probably won't be available on PC, right?
Right.
Well, it
Well, a
depends.
few
Some
of
of
them
it.
will be.
So it'll be interesting to see what actually.
It's going to be splintered at least at first.
Right. There's gonna be like Android style fragmentation, at least a little bit, for sure.
I think even more so because they'll be trying to move the hardware, right? And so they'll be locking people in as much as they can to say you can't put your shit on the other ones
I don't know, because
for a while.
I've heard that
That
Oculus'
is.
strategy is not so much going to be to lock people in, but just to get people to want VR at all. Like, they might be more inclined to play ball with the other people over the first years because they know they need to convert a lot of people to their cause.
Right.
I think Palmer Luck has come out
I'm
and
rooting
said
for it to catch on with the right set of people, and like I said, for 5 years or 10 years down the road, that to be something that's viable for somebody like me.
if we can maintain interest, I think 5 years from now there will be some pretty good stuff.
I continue to question the ability of the technology to maintain interest, though. It depends. It really depends on a lot of factors. But my concern is, Extra Credits did a really great video about it a few weeks ago about the business concerns as far as fragmentation and it's the classic story of the add-on, right? Like, only a certain segment of your audience has the add-on, so do you develop a game that uses the add-on, or do you develop a game that optionally has features that use it because you don't want to cut off a huge portion of the buying public?
It only makes sense in the context of the PS3. Because on the PC,
not necessarily.
you just have, you just market to the people who have one, and you can make you can make a game on kind of any scale for the PC. I don't know. I don't see it being nearly such a problem for the PC.
Yeah, I think what Joe's saying though is like if only like a few tens of thousands of people buy one, then the development dollars will fizzle and it just won't catch. You know what I mean? Like they have to. There has to be. There's a critical mass of headsets that have to be sold before companies will, or even individuals will choose to actually invest their energy and money in developing stuff for those. It just depends on even if they don't sell enough. If the people that are developing for it believe in it strong enough, then they might continue to shove things out the door until it does catch on, until the headsets are more affordable.
Right. But there's a question of like practicality of like, which I hadn't even really thought of, but like if looking with your mouse is more efficient than turning your head, people are just going to keep looking with their mouse, right? Like,
I mean, again, I don't know. Having actually done some VR stuff, it's just really cool to be in a space, and I mean, I'm not getting into VR for productivity reasons,
Right.
I'm not getting into VR to be really competitive at Counter-Strike.
you have to make games that work.
Right, but you,
with-
yeah,
right.
right.
That's the question, right?
Like I think Gone Home is a great example of something that would be better in VR than just playing on a keyboard and mouse. But like Team Fortress 2 seems like something that would be significantly worse. In
Oh yeah,
VR,
I
you know.
would not do that. But
and I mean,
anything
that's
just
like
really beautiful. Anything that just makes a place that you'd want to be. Like I don't know. Imagine if you could play Journey in VR. That'd probably be pretty sweet
I'll pass.
Yeah. I mean, why?
because it's really beautiful, and I like to be in places that are beautiful.
Yeah, Metroid Prime.
Sure.
Yeah, like I said, it's not. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to end up being if it's going to be the next cool thing like a Novant Falcon, or if it's
Or
going
is
to
it
be
going
the
to be a
next.
Kinect?
Yeah, or Kinect, right? Or even like motion controls.
Well,
which
the one thing
are
that I will say for
huge.
VR is that it already works way better than motion controls ever did.
So it
Because
works.
motion controls were always really janky.
Yeah. Remember that Zelda game? How much that sucked playing that game?
Which one are you referring to?
Skyward Sword.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Or
Yes. Yes, I do.
Twilight Princess even.
Right.
If that game was more reasonably priced, they just re-released Twilight Princess for the Wii.
Yeah.
They want $50 for that, which seems fucking crazy to me. First of all, and second of all, but if that game was more reasonably priced, I might be tempted to pick it up and give it a second try.
Did
So
you
I
not?
hated the motion controls back in the day, and I just never. And I was really disappointed that they went to change the art style from the from Wind Waker to that. But motion
Those
controls.
whiny American
suck.
babies complained about
Yep.
Yeah.
the good looking one, Wind Waker.
Yeah.
That's the good-looking one, but not the fun one.
No, but they complained about the way it looked.
Oh yeah. Well,
That's also the fun one.
it's just if you really
None of them are
like
fun. They're Zelda games.
if you really like boating,
I do.
that is
I do, and I did.
Well, the fun Zelda is A Link to the Past.
Well, there is that.
No, the fun Zelda is Zelda 2.
Zelda 2 is also fun, but I mean, Link to the Past, man,
They're pretty good.
the best video game of all time.
Whatever.
That's a bold statement.
It's in the conversation.
It's like the 7th or 8th best Super Nintendo game of all time.
I believe the on the stick Super Nintendo video game draft declared it the #1 Super Nintendo game of all time.
I believe Alex Rio declared it the #1 Super Nintendo game of all
Yep.
time.
Yeah,
He's
the
right.
It's
number
just one of the few times he's
So
correct.
clearly that
so.
doesn't count.
It's in the conversation. It's one of the 3 best, along with Super Mario World and Conquer. Baby. And then the next tier is like Final Fantasy VI and Super Metroid and anyway. Is there
Yeah.
anything else anybody wants to get off their chest?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
When you play anything
I just want to
interesting?
get off my chest that I'm playing real bad at Nuclear Throne tonight. It's maybe
Okay.
not surprising because it's hard to play and talk, but spent an awful lot of time in Area 1.
I ended up, so instead of getting an RPG, I got the Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright crossover nonsense.
Oh yeah.
I like that game.
I'm kind of enjoying it. It's really stupid, but in a way
Oh, it's
that
super stupid, but
you kind of want from that.
right.
I'm a
It's
little
stupid
bit
in the way that those two games are historically stupid. So
It's stupid in kind of different ways, but sure. They're
no,
both
it's
ridiculous.
it's stupid in the
It is-
like. It's
Is it
stupid in
like the
exact sense.
Voltron of stupidity between the two?
Yeah, it's. Oh, I think I convinced Eric to buy it when I just it's like the investigation parts are just like Professor Layton and the courtroom parts are just like Phoenix Wright. It's basically it. So like if those things interest
Yeah,
you,
but sometimes Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright are both pointing at somebody with screaming objections.
yes, it's true.
Okay. No.
And they also,
How far are you?
the story is like they both get sucked into this book
Magic book.
that sends them back to like witch trials,
What?
Europe kind of a thing. It's like a walled off city,
Yeah.
where there are witch trials going on constantly, and that's that's how they change up the courtroom mechanics is by making instead of like they remove all the like modern CSI style.
Evidence gathering.
Pixel hunting.
Well, no, I was trying to think of what's the word for that?
Procedural.
Crime scene investigation.
No.
You're using a lot of good words here.
The type of, well, no, it's like the type of evidence that you can use in that type of court. Like, there's no fingerprints or DNA. Yeah, there's no forensic science of this kind in that world. So instead of having you cross-examine one witness at a time, they put multiple witnesses on the stand, and then you have to like find the contradictions in the witnesses' testimonies and then compare them to each other. Which is a cool idea, but I think that's maybe the biggest weakness is that it's just kind of hard to like pull
Well,
those out. Like, that was always one of the
also
weaknesses.
super obvious, though, right?
Is it just a whole bunch of those logic problems where there are 3 sisters and one of them always lies? And...
No.
No, that's the latent puzzles.
That's the latent. That's the
But
like.
it's more
that's the
like
evidence
I
gathering.
know. It's one of those. It's the same thing that the problem that I always have with Phoenix Wright games is where I know what the problem is, but I have a hard time figuring out what the game wants me to input as the problem.
How the
You know what I
game
mean?
wants you to tell it that you know what you're doing.
That's been the problem with adventure
Right.
games from time immemorial.
Yeah, but it's more so in this game because in the previous games, you just had to pick the right statement to present the evidence on, and now you're picking 2 statements to sort of contrast against each other. Yeah, and that makes it a little bit more difficult, I think. And also, some of the latent puzzles are just kind of like weak sauce, where you can just kind of like poke at it until you get the right answer and not really know why. And I feel like I haven't played much latent, but I feel like in previous games it was more like you had to find a solution and then submit it, and they would tell you if you were right or wrong. And this is more like just like
you get it
poke
right,
at
it
this
says,
thing
"Okay,
until you
cool."
get the right answer. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong about that. I haven't played a ton of latent stuff, but
Yeah, related to that, before we go, the Day of the Tentacle remastered just came out, and that is a thing that I have not started playing yet, but and it includes
It's-
the
it's only PlayStation 4 right now, right? Though
I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
is that easy on PC too?
I thought I saw a Steam announcement as well. I could be wrong.
But apparently so in Day of the Tentacle, one of the things was that there was a fully playable version of Maniac Mansion on Dr. Fred's computer. And apparently they left it in, so you can still play all of Maniac Mansion.
Not only did they leave it in, but they actually put a better version of David.
Well, apparently the CD version had that upgrade, because I was reading about that. So the original, I think it was the original version, or maybe it wasn't the CD version, but like a later
version?
release. The talkie version had the, 126 color version instead of the original, which the original version of...
Damn, it is.
Yeah,
It is
Tentacle.
on Steam. Not yesterday.
Yeah, and now Full
I'm not playing that.
Throttle is the next one, which I'm super stoked about, because Full Throttle is my most favoritist LucasArts adventure game, which basically means it's my most favoritist adventure game ever.
Full Throttle is really good.
I'm kind of
think
excited too
they-
because I never got a chance to play it. It's been really hard to find.
Oh man, you should. Oh
I think
well,
David-
yeah.
I don't like that, but
So full
Games are
disclosure, I've never actually finished Day of the Tentacle, so that's like a thing that I actually also really like Grim Fandango, but I still think Full Throttle is my favorite.
I like the idea of Grim Fandango, but playing it, I haven't played the remastered version.
I haven't
But
either.
It was
playing
my
that game
favorite at
really
the time.
fucking sucked. The controls suck
It was Resident
in
Evil.
that game so much. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not
But
like any
worse.
sort of twitch like dodging or
No,
wall
but it's just
bounce
frustrating.
required or
from
anything.
area to area.
I guess.
It's really hard to aim the shotgun.
And finding where to like input stuff is kind of a pain in the ass in that game. I don't know I don't like the story in that as much as some of the other games. I love the art style and
You didn't like the story? Oh, so good.
Full Throttle just is super well written, and super well acted. Like Mark Hamill is the bad guy, and the guy who played Ben, who's dead now, was great, and just like the art style is wonderful, which is like, I mean, it's very similar to Day of the Tentacles art style, maybe slightly less cartoony, but yeah, I don't know. I was pretty sold on Full Throttle. I still have my original CD version of Full Throttle that I bought in whatever 1997 or 98. But man, it's really good. I like the game a lot. I'm really excited for the remastered version. I'm gonna buy it again.
When is that coming?
Summer, May or summer sometime.
Yeah.
There's a blog
been,
post.
Like these next 3 weeks are pretty. Like, Danganronpa 2 is coming out on PC on the 18th of April too, I guess. So
Time for adventure games.
this
I
may
guess.
only apply to me, but
Yeah, that's a
lot of
huge
stuff.
thing.
yeah, I don't know how am I supposed to play Bay the Tentacle and Danganronpa 2 and Dark Souls 3 all at the same time.
With your Novan Falcon.
The best way to play Day of the Tentacle.
There you go. So, are we gonna sign off at
Feel
this
every
point?
hit.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, so unless you want to yell about VR some more.
Nah.
I
I was considering yelling about the alleged leaked images of the NX controller, but I sort of think they're bullshit anyway. So why waste the breath?
We'll find out.
Well, we'll find out soon enough.
What is it? Can I see what it looks like?
a while.
It looks like an oval with a screen on it and two joysticks sticking out of the screen, which seems really strange to me.
Oh,
It
that
looks
was
exactly like a patent that Nintendo submitted a little while ago.
right. I was gonna say that's the thing that everybody was talking about like 5 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
they
so-
filed the patent and people were talking about it, and then last week someone leaked a really shitty looking screenshot that everybody thought was fake because it looked pretty clearly like whatever image was on the screen had been photoshopped onto it. And then there were new images today, but then a couple people immediately were like one person I saw was like, a source I know at Nintendo of Europe said that like straight up that's bullshit. And not like someone came out and said like Nintendo doesn't have a comment, but like this person was like, a person I know who works at Nintendo said like that is not the thing. So who knows at this point? Like
The way that it looks so much like the patent application is a little suspicious, because usually patent applications don't look like real things.
right.
Which is that would make sense, right? Because they know that patent applications are searchable and that people are going to see stuff.
Yeah, I mean my feeling is
So
to see.
there's no point in putting screen real estate behind your thumbs. So
There's that too.
That's the weirdest thing. That's the thing that weirds me out the most, is being like, this is a thing, and I'm like, the screen is under my hand. Like, that is not
you can't put
sound
relevant
design.
information there because I can't see it, which means that
Right.
there's no point in making the screen that big.
Right.
You
I
can't
don't
say Rolling
understand.
Stone.
I don't understand what the purpose would be of having a screen that shape when you could make it like the Wii U tablet, and my hand wouldn't be covering up
Yeah, but that's not a sweet oval.
screen. Right. It's not a football shape. Though.
Much less comfortable to hold.
The Wii U tablet is really. I like the Wii U tablet.
No,
a
no.
lot.
I mean,
Oh,
the
you're saying-
oval would
yeah,
be much
okay.
less comfortable
Right.
to hold than a Wii U
So
tablet.
clearly that's the process. Yeah.
I kind of wish I could get a tablet, like just a regular tablet, or like a thing I could put my Nexus 7 into that made holding onto it like holding onto a Wii U tablet. Because that Wii U controller is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Like we have a Wii U at work, and when we play Smash Brothers, I always take the tablet. And people are like, "How can you play with that tablet?" I'm like, "It's super comfortable."
It is
Yeah.
super comfortable.
You know what else is really good? Sam and Max. Maybe that's my favorite Lucas Arts adventure.
Yeah, Sam Max Hit the Road is good. I also have an original CD copy of that with the big fat manual that
Zach
has the weird
McCracken.
copy protection.
Also
Zach
pretty
McCracken is not even in the. Zach McCracken's not even in the discussion for me for
Okay.
favorite LucasArts adventure game.
Yeah, it's probably not on the same level.
It's the Metroid fusion of LucasArts adventure games.
It's a
I mean,
Metroid
it's-
stuff too.
There's like at least 2 Monkey Island games that are better than Zach McCracken, and Full Throttle.
Yeah,
Data-
Monkey Island 2 is high on that list for me.
Indiana Jones and the Atlantis, Fate of Atlantis.
Fate of
Yeah,
Atlantis.
that's pretty good too, yeah. Alright. Let's just list all the LucasArts.
36 chambers of LucasArts games.
Yeah.
Magic Carpet.
Oh God.
Magic Carpet, that's Bullfrog.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of what's the Dig, right? Was the one
The
that
Dig,
what's
yeah.
yeah, that's the one.
Loom.
Loom.
was starts right.
Loom. Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, I just
Deja
picked up a
vu.
weapon called the grenade shotgun.
Sounds legit.
Sounds like this run's gonna end real soon. Oh yeah, there we go.
Don't be too close to a wall when you fire that shit off.
And on that note,
And on that note, thanks
This
for
run
listening
is
to
gonna
us
play up. Oh.
complain about VR and LucasArts adventure games.
yeah, I'm trying. I was slacking on putting these up on YouTube for a little while, but I'm trying to be better about it because it seems like a lot more people watch them on YouTube than watch them when we do them. So I'm trying to get back in the habit of uploading them. So
Well, that's a perfect opportunity.
yeah, so check that out and check out the new Same Name Different Game is also up on YouTube just today. So check that out too. Check out our YouTube channel where we
Check
put
those things
stuff.
out.
Yeah, and check out onthestick.com where we do other stuff like talk about pro wrestling and movies.
And that's it. Good night, folks.
I gotta go listen to this new track from the Open Mike Eagle Tall White collaboration.
Do it on your own time. We're stopping.
Features. Oh, this is also the song that features ASAP Rock, so I'm really excited.
Oh,
about that.
nice. That's probably good.
All right, we're stopping.